going on YouTube? Today we're going to talk about sharpening a plane blade. So this is a follow-up to some stropping videos that I did, and at this point this is a Hock plane blade. Made in France, but it's an American company. I think he sends it out to France because they do the best heat treat on these plane blades. This is an O1 tool steel plane blade with a cryogenic heat treat. So he puts it in a deep freeze, or whoever does the heat treat puts it in a deep freeze after it gets quenched in oil. After, you know, they'll put it in an oven, get it up to critical temperature, which I believe is like 1475 or so for O1. They'll dip it in oil, cool it, and then put it in liquid nitrogen, leave it for whatever the recommended time is for his heat treat, and then after that they'll temper it, and you know, the rest is whatever they do. So we're going to sharpen this. This is one of the easiest plane blades I've ever sharpened. I think it has a lot to do with the heat treat. I know it has a lot to do with the heat treat. We're going to start with a Shapton 500. This is what I was talking about in my flattening video. If you haven't seen it, I was just talking about flattening the stones, why it's so important. Well, with plane blades you need a flat back. So we're going to flatten the back, which it already is, but I'll just do it to show you. And then we'll do the main bevel. And I'll probably do the whole bevel, not just a micro bevel, just to show you guys. Alright guys, so now we're going to get right into it. I have a spray bottle. And start flattening the back. Alright, you should be able to see scratch patterns even all along there. You can see it's more of a mirror polish here, and all the same there. And that's the 500 grit. It's all the same. So now I'm going to do the face of it. Some guys will polish the back and then do the primary bevel. I like to do each grit each time, so I don't have like a massive burr on one side and then not on the other. So and I like to go sideways with it. I find that's the easiest. Some guys will go this way and they'll hold it like with one finger on each corner. Find the bevel by rocking it up and down, and then they'll do like a figure 8. You can do it that way too. I prefer holding it sideways and then putting 2 of my fingers on the primary bevel and going back and forth, front to back like this. I find it's just easier. You might find it, you know, whatever works for you. Do what's, you know, what's best for you, what works best for you. Okay, you should be able to see the scratches are all the same on the micro bevel and the main bevel. The original, the primary bevel that came on the Hock, they do it on hollow grinder, so you have to work for quite a while to make it like perfectly flat if you wanted it flat. But I find it's just easier not to get rid of the whole bevel and just, you know, throw a micro bevel on there. I find that that works best for me. Now we're wetting the 1000 grit Shapton Pro, and we're going to do the same thing, but I'm going to start with the back. I'm not putting a lot of pressure, but I'm putting enough pressure that I keep this still. I don't want the plain blade flopping like this. So as long as it's staying flat on the stone, that's all I care about. Okay. Let's see what those scratches are looking like. You should be able to see the difference now between the 500 back here and the 1000 up at the tip here. You can see it's a little bit shinier than the 500. So there you can see that. Now, I haven't figured out yet if I'm going to finish with a natural or if I'm just going to stick with synthetics. Part of me wants to just stick with synthetics for you guys, so that, you know, if you don't have naturals, you know, you can do exactly what I'm doing and it'll be easier for you guys. But then the other part of me wants to use the naturals because I like the edge that I get, and I find that the naturals last a little bit longer, the edge that I get. There goes Gemma in the background. Always. Okay. So we have 1000 grit scratches here, and also on the you know, the part that actually does the cutting. So you can see that shine. That's the 1000 grit scratches. I have a burr because it flipped back over the face. So, oh cool, I'm pretty sure that's UPS. And he has a knife for me, which I'm pretty excited about. So, I did get a budget knife. It's a Ganzo, I'll give you that. And the reason for that is I did get some inquiry about regrinds, and the questions that I got on regrinds were if you don't have a 2x72 grinder, can you do the same thing with a 1x30? And the answer is well, the short answer is no. I'll call him back in a minute. Short answer is no. And the reason for that is because the 2x72 has a lot more capability grinding wise. It has usually better motor. It has better, thanks for interrupting, Gemma. Basically all the components on the 2x72 are better than a 1x30. That's the short answer. So they're not, you know, they're not exactly comparable, but can you still do a regrind on a 1x30? Yes. Does it take skill? Yes. I'd say if you have just like a cheap Harbor Freight 1x30, the best thing you could do is upgrade the abrasives, get high quality abrasives. I tend to stick with like Norton Blaze and like Trizact belts. And then I usually finish with Scotch-Brite because you're never going to get a really nice finish on a 1x30 because the platen is so small. And, you know, you just kind of have to know what you're going to get. It'll never look like a factory finish, but it's doable. So this is 2000 Shapton Pro. Again, we're going to go to the back and polish the back of the bevel. Now we're doing the face, the primary bevel. Alright, now I'll show you guys what that looks like. This is the 2000 grit finish. You can see it's pretty shiny. And it's still like a matte finish compared to the polish that's on the plain blade itself. But, you know, you can see it's polished, but it's definitely not a mirror polish. Alright guys, so now we're going to take off the 2000 grit stone and we're going to finish with the 5000 grit. And I'm going to do one of two things. I'm either going to go to the 12,000 or I'll finish at the Japanese natural. So you don't have to go that high. You can call it quits right at this 5,000. You could honestly just strop right after 2,000. You know, whatever works for you. A lot of guys don't think it's worth going any farther than this. I find that the sharper I can make it, the more effective it is for the most part. You know, I might have to touch it up more often, but it tends to be worth it because I get better cuts with it. Once it gets really flat, it builds friction, and you can see I almost picked it up. It sticks to the stone enough because it's so flat. That's just kind of what happens. So there, you can see I'm picking it up, which is pretty crazy, but that's just what happens when the plain blade back is actually flat. This is what it looks like now that it has a 5000 grit back. You can see it's pretty mirrored. Not sure what I'm going to do with it right now. I might go to the J-Nap, but let's do the face of it first. Here you can see the 5000 grit finish, and it's basically your mirror polish at this point. See if I can demonstrate that. So there you can see it, how it's very reflective. I'm gonna wipe this off, and I'm gonna jump to a Japanese natural stone. And this is a softer one, so this I'd probably, after like the 2000 grit or maybe even the 1000 grit, I'd go to this stone. This will produce a little bit of a slurry, but I'm gonna just help it along with a diamond stone. I have an Atoma here. I'm gonna use the 400 side just to produce a light slurry. And at the same time, I'm flattening it a little bit. Not that it needs it, but. So there you can see the slurry. Wash a little bit of it off. So, start with the back. You can see the steel it's taking off. Sorry if the table is shaking, I'm sure it is, but this causes so much friction that it's hard to keep anything still on this table. So just go slow so that you guys can see it easier and you don't get motion sick from the camera. I have to figure out a better recording situation when I record videos. I have to figure out a better way to get the camera angles than putting a tripod on the table. So here you might be able to see how it's mirrored, but it's also like kind of a matte finish. It's a little bit more hazy. It's definitely shiny and almost mirror polish, but it has like this haziness to it that's kind of hard to explain. I'd probably have to show it on a microscope picture. So that was not very long. And this main bevel now. There, that was a good shot. So there you can see that it's shiny, but it's a little bit more matte finish than you would get with like a 16,000 grit or 12,000 grit, something like that, where you have, or even this, like, this is pretty mirrored for being just a surface ground plane blade. They do a nice job with these. You can see how shiny it is. But then this, especially on the back side, but then you see where the J-Nat did it here. It's a little bit more flat finished or matte finished. And still leaves a really fine finish, but it's just the way that Japanese naturals work. It's the way that the stone particles work and the slurry works. How they break down, and there's a lot to it, but that's not for this video. Now I'm going to move over to my favorite Suita that's been every single Japanese natural video I've ever done. I love this stone. And I'll wet this. And I'm not going to do any slurry on that. I'm just going to use it bare. It's pretty effective bare without a slurry. So go to the back first. Might be able to see here that this is actually a very similar polish to the 5000 grit Shapton Pro. It's actually maybe just a hair shinier, but again it leaves that like matte finish sort of. And there you can see it's pretty shiny. So this is probably equivalent to like 8 to 12,000 in like that range. It's just the way the Japanese naturals polish that I can't really explain, or it's hard to explain. And I'm going to leave the plane blade here so it's in real time. I'm not going to strap it yet on, you know, like a leather strap. Grab a piece of paper and just dry the strap off quick. And there you can see how clean of a cut that is. Perfect. It's push cutting. That's what you get with a Hock blade. That's properly heat. And that's what you get with any steel that's properly heat treated, basically. It'll push cut against the grain, with the grain. I mean, it's just, it's stupid sharp. It'll easily shave hair. And again, this is without even stropping. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thanks for coming along. This is Mike with iheartknives. Please like, share, subscribe. You know, the usual. Again, thanks for coming along, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.